What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another update. We've got quite a bit to get through, but before we do, I want to tell you about a competition that we're running where you get the chance to win any t-shirt from our website, from our shop, for you and a friend. So we're giving away 2 t-shirts to the lucky person that would be drawn out of the hat. All you have to do is go to the website on the landing page where it says enter to win a free t-shirt, and enter your name and email address to be in with your chance to win it. The link will be in the description below. So get involved, guys, get involved. Free t-shirts up for grabs. But let's get straight into the update. Let's start off with this James Maddison story. As David Ornstein broke last night that Maddison not in the final England squad for the Euros. 27-year-old Tottenham midfielder made the preliminary squad and featured versus Bosnia, but is going to be one of those cut by Gareth Southgate's 26-man squad, and he has left the camp. And apparently that he was told that he wasn't going to the Euros, but was in line to start the Friday night game, but he chose to go home instead. Since then, he has removed England from all his bios and all his social media. And apparently Jarell Quansah and Curtis Jones are 2 of the other names that are going to be left out as well.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be 4 more to be decided. I'm surprised they've made this decision so early, though. I'm guessing Eze's good performance against Bosnia in the first friendly has really just put that final nail in the coffin for Maddison, in terms of it was always going to be tough looking at the players in form in his position. You've got the likes of Palmer, Foden, Eze, Grealish potentially in that position as well. Bellingham obviously can play the number 10. So with the form Maddison is on, it was always going to be the form he's on for Tottenham anyway. It was going to be tough for him going in, looking at the players that need to be cut going into the squad to find a place for Maddison. But if I would have told you in November, you know, he wasn't going to be making to the Euros, you probably would have been shocked, because he was, you know, one of the form players in the league, and he probably would have thought at that point he was a shoo-in to go to the Euros. Unfortunately, did pick up that injury, never really got back to his absolute best after recovering from that injury, unfortunately. And I guess the form and the timing has cost him a place in the Euros, and I'm gutted for him because, well, how old is he now? 27?
27, yeah.
Look, I'm sure he's got other tournaments left in him, but
World Cup in 2 years.
But the fact, has he ever been to a tournament?
Was he not at the World Cup in Qatar?
He might have been. I don't know if he played at all.
Yeah, I think
he might have been. Yeah, maybe he has been to tournaments before, but you know, given his form back in November, he probably would have thought not only was he going to be a shoo-in for the tournament, he probably would have backed himself to start, you know, for England. And obviously played some good games for England as well. Even as far as March, you know, came on against Belgium, changed the game, played really well. And at that point, he's probably thinking, I'm going to be going to the Euros after that good cameo. But unfortunately for him, timing has just been everything. And what I don't understand is why tell him he's not going to be going, and then tell him he's going to start on
it's very peculiar.
Friday. That makes absolutely no sense to me, because either you give him an opportunity to prove that he can still make the squad, and that's why you start him, or you tell him, look, you're not going to make it, so you might as well go home. Don't tell him you're not going to make it, but we're going to pity start you on Friday just because you're not going to make it. I think that is not respectful of someone like Maddison, but I understand why he's fuming. But from a Spurs fan point of view, hopefully it keeps him on ice until the summer, and hopefully he starts next season with a point to prove, and that'll be good.
And knowing his mentality and knowing his character with James Maddison, he will use that as a springboard maybe to go and prove people wrong, prove Southgate wrong, prove the England setup wrong. And I actually think this will give him the springboard to have a really strong season next year, James Maddison. So a bit like what we said with Pedro Porro, you know, these guys' attitude and application, when people are doubting them, they're going to want to prove people wrong. And I think Spurs will be the beneficiaries of that next season. Next, talk about some transfer news. Emerson Royal. Damasio said yesterday that Villarreal are also interested in signing Tottenham defender Emerson Royal, as well as AC Milan. The player is understood to prefer a move to Milan over the Spanish side ahead of the upcoming summer transfer window. And Romano says that Royal still expected to leave Spurs and giving priority to the Milan move. He wants AC Milan. So I guess, as we said yesterday, it's up to the clubs to agree a fee.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, from a money point of view, I don't know if Villarreal are in any better situation than AC Milan. I would have thought Milan probably have a bit more money, but I know Serie A are struggling for cash at the moment, but so is La Liga.
Well, Milan are in Champions League,
They're in Champions League as well. So, yeah, if I'm Emerson, I think AC Milan is definitely the move I want to be making, not Villarreal, so that makes absolute sense to me.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see how that one develops. In terms of incomings, we've got quite a few to talk about. Let's talk about Hiroki Ito. Tom Barkley says that Tottenham are understood to be monitoring Stuttgart centre-back Hiroki Ito, who can be versatile and play at left-back. He got a release clause in the region of £21 to £25 million. Christian Falk says that Tottenham are interested in Ito. The Stuttgart defender has a release clause of £25 million. And he's a really interesting one, actually, because he's a really good ball carrier, really good on the ball, really quick as well. Apparently one of the quickest centre-backs in the Bundesliga last year, clocking up 33.74 miles per hour. Can also play at left back, as the report says. So with the money being banded about for him, he could be one that's like ready for the next step.
I think so. I think he's a decent age, and I think he's exactly the kind of defender we're looking at in terms of a defender who can play centre back and left back. So has that versatility. I do think we're looking for a player on the left side who can definitely play both roles. So we don't have to sign another two players. I do think on the ball for sure, he's more than capable of providing what we need. He's brave on the ball. He's actually quite a good passer as well. He's a really good ball carrier. Obviously, Stuttgart have had a brilliant season, finishing second in the Bundesliga. And the price is really a really fair price. 25 million solved that issue. I don't think he's maybe at the level of, like, say, Calafiori, who we were looking at, who might be on his way to Juventus anyway. But for that kind of price, it's hard to ignore. The only question marks I do have is, I think, physically. I know he's quite tall. I think he's like 6 foot. But I do think physically he might take some adjusting to the Premier League. I do think he's not the most physical player. Off the ball, I do question if he's going to get absolutely burnt in the Premier League or not. But I think on the ball, he's more than good enough. So I do think we're taking a bit of an adjustment period, but I do like the idea of this signing, to be honest.
Yeah, in terms of like getting burnt, I feel like his pace could get him out of a lot of trouble because he is super, super quick. I don't think he's Mickey van der Ven quick, but he's still one of the quickest players in the Bundesliga. I mean, he clocked up faster speeds than Jabi Simons last year.
Yeah, but defenders can't just use pace anymore. Like Walker, he's quick, yes, but the reason he's a good defender is he's physically strong. Same with Van der Ven.
No, absolutely.
If Van der Ven wasn't physically strong, it wouldn't matter how much pace he has. He would just get bullied off the ball.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing.
No, 100%. But it's definitely a plus to have that pace. Let's talk about James Garner now. This is a peculiar one. That Tottenham are interested in signing James Garner from Everton ahead of next season. The North London club are looking for ways to further reinforce Postecoglou's squad in the upcoming transfer window. They are looking to add more quality in their midfield, and according to the Football Insider, Spurs are keen on signing Everton defensive midfielder James Garner. I mean, I haven't been disappointed when watching him this season. I think he's been a good player for Everton, but I don't think he's the level that we're looking at.
To be fair, they did seem to improve when they put him in the team. And I actually think he's quite a good technical player for a defensive midfielder. I have never looked at him thinking this is a player we need at Tottenham. I don't think he's at that level, especially if we're looking for a number 6 to start week in, week out. I don't think Garner, we should be putting our eggs in that basket. If we're looking for like a backup number 8, I mean, I guess you can maybe put a case forward for it, but obviously I'd much rather someone on Gallagher's level than Garner.
Yeah, but like
we've got
Sarr and Bentancur. Like, there's no need for a backup number 8 in Garner's level.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't know what price they're talking about. What did he say?
There's no price.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because he's English, I guess that puts him in general favour, and he has been quite good for Everton. I don't see Garner as a worthwhile signing.
If we're going to take a midfielder from Everton, go take Onana. Like, I don't see why we would take Garner. I mean, to be fair, Romano said yesterday that Arsenal are looking at Onana and trying in talks with Everton about him. So that's an interesting one. But nah,
the only reason
I prefer not
English,
Garner.
I think. That's the only reason we'll look at him, I think.
So we're going to tap up every single English player in the Premier League. That's like okay. It's a bit ridiculous.
No, I'm not no Garner for me.
Another English player that Spurs are looking at is Trevor Chalobah. Alistair Gold says that Trevor Chalobah is a player that Tottenham like, and obviously with Chelsea trying to get rid of players before the PSR deadline on June the 30th, he's a player that Spurs could go for.
I do like Chalobah. Again, if we can get him for, if they're looking at 25 million, again, player can play right back, can play centre back, can play midfield as well. So he's quite versatile, and he's actually had a really good end to the season with Chelsea.
Good goal against us, wasn't it?
Good goal against us. I think he's always been a fairly consistent performer whenever he has been playing for Chelsea. For one reason or another, they don't always fancy him. I think they prefer their big money signings to playing him a lot of the time. But I do think it's a fair price. I do think he's a versatile player. So
what is the price?
They're saying 25 million potentially.
25.
So that's some good price for someone like him. He's English as well. He's at 24 years of age. So I think that's a decent signing, but I also don't like the fact that we're kind of helping Chelsea out by getting some of their fringe players out the door. Gallagher's different. He's their captain, but Chalobah's like, they've got a fringe player they're looking to sell and we're helping them out a bit.
Yeah, helping them out to help them go and get stronger players in those positions. It's a bit ridiculous where, we finished above Chelsea now, the last 2 seasons? And, the way things are going, if you're going to take Chelsea's fringe players and let them strengthen, there's only one way this is going to go. All right, and moving on from Chalobah, let's talk about strikers now, as Spurs have been linked with Youssef En-Nesyri from Sevilla. Tottenham are understood to be in contention to find Sevilla striker Youssef En-Nesyri. The Moroccan has been heavily linked with an exit this summer, and according to Vamos Mi Sevilla, could be on his way to North London in the near future. Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham want to add one more player. Timo Werner obviously will stay on loan, but we'll look at some options. So let's see what they'll do in terms of a winger or maybe a striker. There is still an internal discussion with Ange Postecoglou that with several players being considered, but for sure Tottenham want to add at least one more player in the offensive positions after Timo Werner. And Ali Gold has given kind of list of names that he's been hearing that has been bandied about, and he said Youssef En-Nesyri, Omar Mamouche, Ivan Toney, Victor Gyökeres, Jonathan David and Santiago Jimenez are the names being pushed around at the moment inside Tottenham or around Tottenham. Youssef En-Nesyri is not a player that really excites me. I think he's not a player that's going to take us on to the next level. His goal contribution and goal rate is not exactly something to shout home about. Whenever I've watched him play, he does look like a bit of a handful. But I just think we need a lot better calibre than him.
Obviously, he had a great World Cup, didn't he? He was really good for Morocco. And actually, to be fair, last season, I think 16 goals in La Liga, so pretty decent return. But
and this year, only 12 or something?
No, the season just been, no?
Was it 16?
It says here, I just read 16. I think a few years ago it was 18, but he's such an inconsistent performer, En-Nesyri. So, the season just been 16 goals. Season before that, 8. Season before that, 5. Season before that, 18. Season before that, 4. So you can never really trust him, it seems, in terms of to be a consistent performer and find a goal. En-Nesyri.
The reality is, he's 27 years of age, and in his whole career, he's only hit more than 10 twice.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Correct.
And if you're going to sign him, is he any better than Richarlison? Maybe he brings you something different in terms of. He's much more of a physical presence in the box than Richarlison. You've got to say that. So maybe he gives you a different option. But I just wouldn't do this deal. I really wouldn't. In terms of the other names, Omar Mamouche, Ivan Toney, Gyökeres, Jonathan David, Santiago Jimenez. Victor Gyökeres is obviously the one that stands out the most of that list, but is he going to cost 100 million, something like that? Whenever Alistair Gold, every summer, whenever he gives us these lists, there's always one that's just unrealistic, and I think he's probably the one. Ivan Toney out of that list just seems the most realistic one, because he's going to be, Brentford are saying 60 to 70 million, but I don't think they're going to get that from anyone. So I do think the price is going to get cut down, maybe 40, 50 million. He is a good player. I have said I don't want him in terms of the attitude and all that, but if we're going to sign him, I will get excited because he is a top quality player.
Yeah, I like Toney. I think on that list, in terms of Prem proven, obviously he's the one who fits the bill the most price-wise. I do think it kind of makes sense, and he's English. But obviously, given his age, he's 28. There is some attitude questions or concerns, so obviously he wouldn't be my number one choice. Jonathan David is someone who's obviously scored consistently in Ligue 1, and he's a very quick player. But however, we did see in the World Cup in last year in Qatar, he's just an inconsistent finisher, and I do think maybe he relies on potentially weaker defences, but in Ligue 1, but he's obviously very quick. He'll be very good for our pressing, the way we press, and he's quite versatile, can play on the wing potentially as well. But would we get frustrated with his missed chances? Obviously, there's a question right there. Gyökeres I really like. He's physical, he's strong. He's obviously bagging goals for the last 3 seasons, so he's a really good shout. Yeah, I really don't like the En-Nesyri signing. He's definitely for me, a mid-table Premier League striker, like at best. He's very physical, very strong, but nothing really much more than that. I don't think he's got the most consistent first touch.
Seems like a bit of a West Ham player.
Yeah,
to me.
technically he's not the best. Obviously, if you're lumping the ball in, he's actually quite a good plan B. Let's say we had like a great striker as our number one already, and we had him as plan B. That's not a bad plan B to have, but we're looking for a number one striker here, I think. So I don't think he fits the bill for that. Jimenez, obviously we got question marks about him because he's only been playing in the Dutch league, and they're saying he's in inconsistent form. And also we have a player already on our books who is comparable to him in terms of goals scored in Troy Parrott in the same division. So you could argue you might as well give Parrott a go if we're going for Jimenez. So it's not like the best list. Obviously, Omar Marmoush is. I kind of like the thought of Omar Marmoush, but again, he's only really been doing it for one season in the Bundesliga. But he has been personally recommended by Mido, and he does kind of profile quite well as a versatile forward in our system. I really hope Romano's wrong and it's more than one we bring in and come the end of the window. But
he did say at least one by the end of it.
He said at least one. I mean, having spoken fluent Levy for the past 20 years, that means one.
And that means zero.
Usually it means one, I would say, if he says at least one.
Yeah, it's Timo Werner.
Yeah, exactly, Timo Werner. Which annoys me, again, if we're only bringing in two, why is one of them Timo Werner? It really shouldn't be. Anyway, I'm not going to bang on that drum until we know who we're signing. But look, it's not the list that really gets me on my seat, but if we do get a Gyökeres, then I'll be delighted.
Yeah, back on Jonathan David for a second. I think he could be an interesting one. I know we saw that he's a frustrating finisher at the World Cup in Qatar. But I do feel like with the goals he's got behind him, yes, it is in the French league, and you're seeing players like Alexandre Lacazette and Aubameyang scoring similar amounts of goals this season. But at the age of 24, I still think he's got a lot of scope to improve, and maybe with Ange Postecoglou, coaching him through that, I do think he's got scope to get better, and his finishing can improve. So if he's showing the signs of the pressing and the work rate and everything like that, and obviously he is getting the goals in France, I think he can get better in a Spurs shirt. So I would be quite interested to sign Jonathan David.
124 goal contributions in his 206 games.
Yeah.
So, in Liga, 81 goal contributions in 146 games. So very good record.
Yeah.
So tough to ignore that, and especially at his age. And we know that he's a very pacey striker as well. So he would that would get us excited. I just hope it's not one who would get us excited, then he would come to the Premier League and he would turn out to be like a Werner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But I think if we were to sign him, we just need to be a bit patient as well with him.
His pressing stats are pretty good as well.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I think he's the right profile. It's just that if he can improve his finishing on a consistent basis, I think he would be a really good option for us. And I think with the age he's at, he's still got scope to improve. He's not at the finished article just yet.
Yeah, I like the thought of him.
But anyway, let me know what striker you want out of that list. And let's finish off looking at the statements from Japhet Tanganga and Ryan Sessegnon in terms of their leaving from Spurs. Japhet Tanganga says, my 15-year journey with Spurs official has come to an end, from being a 9-year-old kid with a dream to making my first professional debut, working under world-class managers, playing alongside exceptional players who have become who have become brothers to me, playing for passionate, supportive fans. I'm grateful to everybody who gave me the opportunity to live out my dreams and supported me throughout my journey. The fans and the staff, the club itself, thank you. With that being said, I look forward to the journey ahead and excited to see where it takes me. And I'm excited to see where it takes him as well, because you remember him breaking through into the Spurs team, that performance against Liverpool. Obviously, for one reason or another, injuries, the way we've kind of guided his development hasn't worked out. But I do think he can make a good name for himself in the Premier League.
Yeah, now he's on a free. I do think the likelihood of a Premier League move probably increases, seeing as they won't have to pay a transfer fee. Definitely for one of the promoted clubs, I can easily see one of them picking him up as well. And I'm really excited to see. I know it's not going to be in a Spurs show, unfortunately, but I'm excited to see where he goes, if he becomes a really good Premier League player, because we know he has it in him. He just needs to get on that pitch consistently and get his rhythm back, get his confidence back, and it seems that he's on his way there. So I'm really excited for his future now.
Yeah, and Ryan Sessegnon says, I would like to thank everyone associated with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I joined at 19 and have met some very special people along the way that have supported me and guided me, from my teammates to the backroom staff to my coaches. Thank you. I've got memories and friends for life From making my debut scoring in the Champions League, I'll always cherish these moments. Unfortunately, things didn't work out the way I or the club wanted during my time here. It broke my heart that I couldn't play in front of you a lot more. And he says, I want to wish all the best for the future. Thank you, Cess. And it is really upsetting, actually, the way it's kind of gone for him. When he joined us, he had the world at his feet, didn't he? After smashing it for Fulham in the Championship, going into the Premier League as a 17-year-old. And we thought we were buying, one of the next future stars in the Premier League. I think we signed him at 19, like he says. And injuries have just always plagued him every single season he's had here. And it's just a massive, unfortunate thing for him. And hopefully he can put these behind him and make his name somewhere.
Yeah, just surgery after surgery, isn't it, for Ryan Sessegnon? And even as far as this season, he had a surgery right at the beginning of the season, he had surgery last season, comes back, then he has surgery on his left hamstring, comes back and his right hamstring goes, and he has after surgery on his right hamstring. It's just been one problem after another, and I do think there is a good player in there, but unfortunately, I feel like it's more a lot of it with him. It's his injuries have affected his confidence and affected his ability to really give it everything when he's on the pitch, because I don't know if he can trust his body, and that has affected his performances. So I feel like we've never really seen the best out of Ryan Sessegnon ever since he's been at Tottenham, and it is gutting because he, when he was 16, scoring over 15 goals in the Championship, he looked like he had the world at his feet, and everyone was after him. It was a really big coup when Tottenham got him, but unfortunately, injuries have stifled him, and that is what's held him back. I really hope he can get over it and really become the player that everyone thinks he can be. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of move. If he drops down to the Championship again, if he gets a Premier League move. He just needs somewhere where he can feel at home again and build his confidence, and somewhere where they're going to trust him and he can start trusting his body again, because that's the main thing for him. But I wish him all the best.
Yeah, I think if he does drop down to the Championship, try and put those injury problems behind him, build up that confidence, because if a fully fit Ryan Sessegnon plays in the Championship, he'll be one of the best players, if not the best player in that league. And if he shows that on a consistent basis over the course of a year, he'll get a move back to the Premier League, no problems. So let's hope it does all work out for him. But that is all we have for you today. Just a quick reminder before you leave, do go to our website, link in the description below, enter your details and be in with a chance to win 2 of our t-shirts. Check out the different kind of designs that we do have on the website. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.